Good morning and welcome to my moment of reflection for the week. This week we're talking about imagination and logic and how the two interact or whether one's better than the other. I've been doing these tips for about 5 years now. I was quite a bad place about 5 years ago. My father had died, I was very close to, and it was quite a tough time for me in quite a few ways. But sometimes I would just see a quote or a lovely picture or photograph and it would just make me stop a bit in my tracks and say, do you know what, actually I'm actually very, very lucky in so many ways. An awful lot of people actually are in a much worse place than me. I need to be grateful for what I have. But I started sharing those quotes, those pictures, really to help me more than anything, and actually found that other people were saying that's really helped me too. So that's what this is about. If it's anything in this that you think would help somebody else get to a better place, then please do share it with them. And please also like and share it over social media. That would be fantastic too. So the quote for this week is, logic will get you from A to Z, but imagination will get you everywhere. Did you used to be a daydreamer at school? I certainly was. I was always in trouble. But the reality is all the great inventions of the world have come from imagining it first. Because how can you create something if you haven't actually seen it in your own mind? So everything gets created twice, once in your own mind and then once actually physically. And can you imagine and just think about trying to create something that's brand new, that's never ever been seen before, without seeing the end result first? So you're starting here and you're saying, right, I'm going to create something brand new. Well, which direction do I go in? Am I writing something? Am I doing a book? Am I building a new car? Whatever it might be. You have to see where you're going first. Otherwise, it's a bit like getting on any train from London, but actually you're trying to get to York. And the odds are that you're not going to get to York because there's 3,000 other trains that you could be on. So it's really important, and I think it's the only way of doing it, that you actually have to imagine the end result first. And that's why imagination is so important. But once you've imagined the end result, then you have to go back to the beginning of that process and start going through the A to Z, the logic part, heading in the right direction to get to the end result. And it might change a bit along the way, absolutely, but the imagination bit has to come first. So as this week is International Women's Day, which was yesterday, I thought it'd be interesting to just have a look at 3 women who have imagined a better world. Now there's millions and millions of women I could have chosen, but I've chosen these 3. So let's just have a look at what they actually achieved in their lives. So the first one is J.K. Rowling. Now, you'll all know J.K. Rowling as the author of the Harry Potter books, and she had an incredible imagination. But when you really think about what she actually did, she didn't just write a book that was in this world where you knew how people interacted and what the buildings looked like and, you know, everything around. We know we live in this world. She created an entirely new world, and everything had to interact properly. So you had to make sure that every single character's storylines meshed at the right point, at the right time, in the right place. She had to imagine what they ate, what they wore, the whole schooling system, etc., etc., etc. And that takes a huge amount of work. Only once she created that whole world could she then actually go back and write the first word in the first book. Now, what's also interesting about J.K. Rowling wasn't just the imagination in terms of creating the books and the whole world of Harry Potter, but then she also imagined a better world for the film industry, because when the books were going to be made into film, she was approached by American producers. But she said, no, I want the films made in the UK. But the British industry said, we haven't got the expertise for doing that. We haven't got the skills and the knowledge and the right studios and the right setup. We simply can't do it. And J.K. Rowling said, that's fine. Get the skills, get the knowledge, build the studios. I want them made in the UK. And as a result, that boost to the film industry was huge, not just in terms of income, but also in terms of the skills and the expertise and everything else that goes with the film industry. And she gave a massive, massive boost to the film industry, which is now, you know, carried on. And so in terms of what she imagined for the world, it's not just Harry Potter, it's also how she could improve the British film industry. And that, I think, is really, really important. The second lady I want to talk about is somebody called Rosa Parks. Now, you may have come across Rosa Parks. She's one of the lesser known members of the civil rights movement in America. But in the 1960s, she's a black lady. She was sitting on a bus on the way home from work, which she did every single night, and she was told to give up a seat for a white person. And she sat there and thought, you know, I have exactly as much right to this seat as he does. And so she refused to move. And consequently, she became the icon for the civil rights movement, and it was her who inspired Martin Luther King. And as we know, Martin Luther King then went on to drive the whole civil rights movement. But it was Rosa Parks who was the first person who actually said and imagined a better place where she had exactly the same right to a seat on that bus as somebody who was white. Or any colour, come to that, doesn't matter what the colour is. So she's quite a remarkable lady too. And the third one I wanted to talk about is Dido, who's Queen of Carthage. Now, you probably think of Dido, Queen of Carthage as a Shakespeare play, which it is, written by Christopher Marlowe, one of Shakespeare's contemporaries, which is actually a real person. She was married to a priest in what is now Lebanon, and her brother killed her husband, as they were going to do in those days. And so it was a very nasty time. Anyway, so she, rather than staying in Lebanon, she decided to run away, and she took all her people with her. And they set off by boat, firstly to Cyprus, and then across the Mediterranean to what is now Tunisia. So they arrived in this foreign land, didn't know anybody at all, with very little, very little possessions or anything. And she asked one of the local sort of chieftains if she could have some land to build a town for her people. And he said, you can have as much land as you can cover with one ox skin. So she got the ox skin, and they cut it into the minutest, thinnest strips and laid the strips around an area, and therefore managed to get enough land to build a town which later became the city of Carthage. Now, Carthage was a major force in the Mediterranean for the next 600-700 years, and they were major seagoing peoples and massively influenced trade and everything in culture in that part of the Mediterranean. So she's quite a remarkable lady. Can you imagine setting off from Lebanon, where you're running away from persecution, you have no idea what's over the horizon at all, you have no idea what you're going to, but she imagined a better life for her people, and she knew she could get to a better place, somewhere that was safe, and they could thrive, and they wouldn't be persecuted, and they could be happy as families. And so she set off from Lebanon over 2,000 years ago to become the Queen of Carthage. And that's quite a remarkable story. What I also find really interesting is that Christopher Marlowe actually chose to write about her in the 16th century, when women were certainly not regarded as really, part of society so long ago, and yet he took Dido, Queen of Carthage, because he was so impressed by her story. So she had some great imagination as well. So imagination or logic, which is the most important? Well, they're both important, but imagination has to come first, and then you can apply the logic. So I hope you found that interesting. As I said, if that's helpful to you or something that you know, then please do share it. If we haven't met yet, then my name is Mandy Cran, and people come to me when they realise that they need to make changes in their life if they want to have better health and quality family time in the years ahead. And I talk to a lot of people. A lot of people that I talk to now, quite a lot of them feel they can't carry on in the corporate world. For whatever reason is not appropriate. They're fed up, they've had enough, they don't like the boss. Whatever reason, they can't work in the corporate world. But they still want to have a good career, a really good income and a good pension. And I work with them to help them start their own business so that they can have those things. They can have all the good side of having a really good career without some of the drawbacks of working in a 9-to-5 corporate world with associated stress that goes along with that. If that connects with you, then let's have a chat. You can either contact me on Facebook by messaging, or email me at Mandy with an IE at thebuzzgroupbemore.co.uk, and I look forward to speaking to you. So next week I'm going to be talking about mothers. It's Mother's Day this Sunday, so we're going to be talking about mothers. So do join me live at 10 o'clock on Facebook, the Buzz Group Be More, and have a great week.